Hello and welcome to a very special program. It's Women's Day today, an occasion for us to look at the incredible contribution of women in our country in all walks of life. Women are now playing a very important part of our armed forces, and we are very privileged to be joined by four distinguished women. Women who serve the Indian Air Force, women who fight for our flag, women who've made a remarkable difference professionally. We're now very privileged to be joined by Flying Officer Avani Chaturvedi. Avani is the first Indian woman to fly a sortie on a fighter aircraft of the IAF. She flies MiG-21s presently. A legend in the Air Force, Air Marshal Bandopadhyay. The Air Marshal retired a few years back. She was the first woman to reach the rank of Air Marshal in the Indian Air Force. She's a medical specialist, a doctor, and it's wonderful to have you on this program. Squadron Leader Archana Kapoor is now with the Director General of Civil Aviation. She is one of the key officers overseeing the safety of flight operations in this country. She was in the first batch of women transport pilots in this country. That was way back in 1993, right, when you joined?
That's correct.
Right. And we are also joined by Squadron Leader Khushboo Gupta. She flies helicopters in no less than the Siachen glacier. She did her first Siachen landing. When was this? In December, you mentioned.
Captain landing.
Your captain landing in Siachen. Siachen being perhaps the most difficult area of operations anywhere in the world as far as helicopter operations are concerned. Thank you all very much for being with us. Avani, you are a real star in this country. I know all you wanted to do was to fly and to serve the flag, serve the country. But tell us about the experience of flying the MiG-21. What does it feel like? It's a remarkably fast aircraft.
Well, you said that I am a star, but I would say that in 25 years of women into Indian Air Force, they're the star makers, I would say, because they did their best. That's why I got an opportunity to be here. How does it feel to fly MiG-21? I cannot explain it in words, because it is one of the highest landing speed aircraft in the world. The amount of time available for your reaction is really less, and because of that, the level of preparation required to be in cockpit and be confident is much more. But feeling that first reheat kick when you are going solo, that gives you an actual kick.
Yeah. And you, just before you became a fighter pilot, you were extensively trained. You were trained for years. In fact, it was over here at Hindon when the then Air Chief Marshal actually said that women would be inducted as combat pilots. I remember covering that. And it's wonderful to be here back at Hindon to actually see you, in uniform and flying now with MiG-21s. But the process of training was long and it must have been very difficult.
Well, the training, I won't say difficult, but definitely challenging, because humans are not made to fly, right? We learn to fly. So it took approximately 1 year of flying training to become a flying officer, and even after that, it took 1 more year for me to come to a fighter cockpit.
Right.
So definitely training is challenging. It is demanding physically and mentally both. But because of set syllabus and with the course mates, with their help, and when you are together as a team, then it becomes easy for you.
That's what it's all about, right? Teamwork within the squadron, teamwork even before you join the squadron. Is that what, in your experience, is the essential IAF experience, teamwork?
Definitely it is, because you don't get airborne as a single entity, right? You go as 2 aircraft, 4 aircraft. So the amount of confidence and bonding you have with the number 2 or number 1 on the ground, that reflects in air.
And I must ask you this question. There were a lot of people who wondered that, if a woman goes into combat in a fighter aircraft, if God forbid something goes wrong, you're shot down behind enemy lines, this is a real factor we should be concerned about. How do you react to questions or views like that?
Well, the way I have been trained for, I think the enemy should be worried about that, not me.
That's a perfect answer. Ma'am, it's wonderful to hear a younger generation of women doing so well. And I think that's an attitude that must be so much a part of. That when you're in uniform, when you're in the Air Force, it's just the flag all the way, it's the Air Force all the way. Tell us about how, as a doctor, teamwork was as important, if not more important, than any other field.
I think teamwork is the most important for any success in any field. Firstly, I must congratulate Avani, a dream which we all dreamt for almost 40 years. I dreamt for 40 years. It has come true. Today she is right next to me and I feel very, very proud of that. Now, next coming to that, I'll tell about my 71 ops when I was a junior officer, flying officer, and I was in charge, not in charge.
Where were you deployed in 71?
Well, some forward area in the western sector.
Right.
Okay. So that time, ours was the first hospital. The surgical team was supposed to come from Bangalore. They did come, but the ops finished a few minutes, 1 or 2 days before that. Then I was there. When I can't say my surgical team is coming. But it's not that I did the operations or any such thing. It is my team, my OT guy, my anesthetist guy. We all put together. Why only the doctors? The MTD who brought the patients, the other people, the pilots who were there, everyone contributed. And as a flying officer, I could conduct so many operations, life-saving and limb-saving. That is because, of course, my training at Command Hospital Air Force, then Air Force Hospital Air Force, which gave me the courage to do it. But it was a teamwork right from the beginning, which I carried on in the Kargil war also. It was the same teamwork.
Yeah.
But now I was not doing anything. I was only getting things done. But because by now I had become a group captain, I had become a senior guy, so I didn't do actually, but I was there organizing.
And ma'am, tell us about when you got the phone call saying that you had been approved for the rank of Air Marshal. What did it feel like? How was it a phone call or was it a letter or what was it?
I was called to the then AOP's office.
Where was this?
Headquarters, Vayu
Right.
Bhavan. I knew I had cleared my board because the board is done by the army. That
Right.
all the three army,
Right.
Army, Navy, Air Force. Because we are AMC officers. Okay, so then well, as cleared I knew, but what I am going to become, whether I am going to become a Lieutenant General or a Air Marshal or a Vice Admiral, we don't know that part of it. That I think is thanks to then Chief of Air Staff. I became an Air Marshal also because the Chief, as I say, in picking up his DGMS, then
Right.
AOP called me. Then he said, "Do you know you are becoming an Air Marshal?" I said, "Sir, I knew I am becoming a Lieutenant General, but I didn't know I am becoming an Air Marshal. Thanks to you, sir. This is the service I wanted to serve." Because I am the one exceptional guy most probably in AMC. I kept on to my blue uniform. It was very nice. I mean, it was a feeling which cannot be described.
Right.
But it is again not my great achievement. Each one of us, each one ahead of me, behind me, everybody, the team did the work, and Air Force, the then Chief, felt that I could deliver as DGMS.
Right.
That's why I'm here. I was there.
And Archana, I must ask you, what were some of the attitudes which you may or may not have confronted way back in 1993, and how did that evolve over a period of time? The fact that you were in the very first batch of women to join the transport, was there sexism? Were there attitudes? Was there a sense that, oh, you know, a woman just can't do as well?
It was a mixed bag, I'd be very honest. What really helped was, in the forces, I have to admit that why it was so easy and not so difficult as most people would want to perceive it as, is that we had gentlemen and they had the gentleman's training. So while there was apprehension as to how we would be able to cope, and I come from a services family where my father had served in the Indian Air Force, and he would ask me so many times, he says, "I just cannot imagine a lady in the crew room. I somehow cannot see how this is going to pan out." So having said that, I knew there was some kind of a hesitation that people would have accepting us. But I would say there'd be a one odd person in the squadron who had those apprehensions.
But did you have to prove yourself extra hard? Or were
yes.
you just so good that you didn't have to? It all fell into place?
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd say the training is very, very good. The instructors were thorough gentlemen, and it was so comfortable training. We were treated like people more than a woman or a man or a boy, whatever. That I never felt for a minute that there was something that I could do any less than anybody else.
Yeah.
And my course-mates and colleagues, the boys, were equally competitive with me as they were with everybody else, and they knew I was there to compete.
And you did compete well. Squadron Leader, let me ask you this. The entire experience of flying in Siachen means that you're always on edge as a helicopter pilot. The aircraft the helicopter is at the very limits of its ability. What does it feel like to know that you are one among a very select group of flyers to be flying in the world's highest battlefield?
Well, when I was training for during my cadet days as a helicopter pilot, at that time I told my instructor, sir, I want to get posted to Leh and how can I do it? So that is the time he told me, don't even dream about it. And after 10 years when I got this opportunity, it was like, wow, it's sort of a dream come true, what I always wanted to do. It is an excellent experience flying there. Of course, I also had apprehensions when I was landing for the first time in the glacier as a part of my syllabus.
How high was the post that you landed in?
The first post I landed at was at the altitude of 17,500.
That's amazing, huh?
So I did have my apprehensions. It was the winds, wind chill factor, the cold. Aircraft is sluggish, the performance is slightly slower than what you're used to in the planes. Your load carrying capacity reduces. So I had to be careful and be ahead of the aircraft at all the times. But finally, by the second sortie, this apprehension was gone. And I was totally ready to go.
What is the highest post that you've landed at?
If you would have heard, the highest helipads are the Amar and Sonam helipads.
Right.
They are at the altitude of 19,600 to 19,800. So that is the highest helipad I've landed at.
I tell you, what does it feel like as an officer to be landing in the highest posts with maybe just a jerry can of kerosene, and that's all that perhaps you can carry when it gets hot and you can carry less. But that jerry can of kerosene is the lifeline for our men up in those very difficult high altitude posts.
I'll tell you a small incident. There were barrels kept at Amar helipad. However, they did not have a pipe to take out the kero oil and the diesel from those jerry cans. So we got a request to carry a pipe. So it was only about half a meter pipe, a thick pipe which we carried, and we landed at Amar. But it was so crucial that they couldn't have otherwise burned their kero heaters if we wouldn't have delivered that pipe. So it was a sense of great satisfaction by delivering just that half a meter of pipe there. It is that crucial to land there.